Money laundering is the process of concealing the origin of money, often obtained from illicit activities such as drug trafficking, corruption embezzlement, or gambling, by converting it into a legitimate source. It is a crime in many jurisdictions with varying definitions. It is usually a key operation of organized crime. In U.S. law, money laundering is the practice of engaging in financial transactions to conceal the identity, source, or destination of illegally gained money. In UK law, the common law definition is wider. The act is defined as taking any action with property of any form which is either wholly or in part the proceeds of a crime that will disguise the fact the property is the proceeds of a crime or obscure the beneficial ownership of said property. In the past, the term money laundering was applied only to financial transactions related to organized crime. Today, its definition is often expanded by government and international regulators, such as the U.S. Office of Comptroller of Currency, to mean any financial transaction which generates or an asset or a value as the result of an illegal act, which may involve actions such as tax evasion or false accounting. In the UK, it does not even need to involve money, but any economic good. Courts involve money laundering committed by private individuals, drug dealers, business, corrupt officials, members of criminal organizations such as the mafia, and even states. As financial crime has become more complex and financial intelligence (FININT) has become more recognized in combating international crime and terrorism, money laundering has become more prominent in political, economic, and legal debate. Money laundering is an ipso facto illegal. The facts of generating the money almost always are themselves criminal in some way, for if not, the money would not need to be laundered. Laws against money laundering were created to use against organized crime during the period of probation in the United States during the 1930s. Organized crime received a major boost from prohibition and a large source of new funds that were obtained from illegal sales of alcohol. The successful prosecution of Al Capone on tax evasion brought a new emphasis by the state and law enforcement agencies to track and compensate money. But existing laws against tax evasion could not be used once gangsters started paying their taxes. In the 1980s, the war on drugs led governments again to turn to money laundering rules in an attempt to track and seize the proceeds of drug crimes in order to catch the organizers and individuals running drug empires. It also had the benefit, from a law enforcement point of view, of turning rules of evidence upside down. Law enforcers normally have to prove an individual is guilty to seize the property, but with money laundering laws, money can be confiscated and it is up to the individual to prove that the source of funds is legitimate to get the money back. This makes it much easier for law enforcement agencies and provides for much lower burdens of proof. However, this process has been abused by some law enforcement agencies to take and keep money without strong evidence of related criminal activity to be used to supplement their own budgets. In the September 11th attacks of 2001, which led to the Patriotic Act in the U.S. and similar legislation worldwide, led to a new emphasis on money laundering laws to combat terrorism financing. The Group of Seven, G7, nations used the Financial Action Task Force on Money Laundering to put pressure on governments around the world to increase surveillance and monitoring systems of financial transactions. Anti-money laundering regulations have become a much larger burden for financial institutions, and enforcement has been stepped up significantly. During 2011 to 2015, A number of major banks faced ever-increasing fines for breaches of money laundering regulations. This included HSBC, which was fined $1.9 billion in December 2012, and BNP Paribas, which was fined $8.9 billion in July 2014 by the US government. Many countries introduced or strengthened border controls on the amount of cash that can be carried and introduced central transaction reporting systems, where all financial institutions have to report all financial transactions electronically. For example, in 2006, Australia set up the AUSTRAC system and required the reporting of all financial transactions. Definition: money laundering is the conversion or transfer of property, the concealment or disguising of the nature of proceeds, the acquisition, possession, or use of property, knowing that these are derived from criminal acts, or participating in or assisting the movement of funds to make the proceeds appear legitimate. Money obtained from certain crimes such as extortion, insider trading, drug trafficking, and illegal gambling is quote-unquote dirty and needs to be quote-unquote cleaned to appear to have been derived from illegal activities, so that banks and other financial institutions will deal with it without suspicion. Money can be laundered by many methods that vary in complexity and sophistication. Money laundering typically involves three steps. The first involves introducing cash into the financial system by some means, quote unquote placement. The second involves carrying out complex financial transactions to camouflage the illegal source of the cash, quote unquote layering. And finally, acquiring wealth generated from transactions of the illicit funds, integration. Some of these steps may not be omitted, depending on the circumstances. For example, non-cash proceeds are already in the financial system and would not need to be placed. According to the United States of Treasury Department, money laundering is a process of making illegally gained proceeds, i.e., dirty money, appear legal, i.e., clean. Typically involves three steps: placement, layering, and integration. First, the illegitimate funds are furtively introduced to the legitimate financial system. Then, the money is moved around to create confusion, sometimes by wiring or transferring through numerous accounts. Finally, it is integrated into the financial system through additional transaction until the dirty money appears clean. I think that's going to pretty much wrap it up. That's a clear definition on money laundering and its history. So, thank you.